So basically, I learned about perimenopause while having a nervous breakdown. For some women, entering perimenopause is a smooth transition with only a few noticeable changes. But for many of us, it's the start of a confusing and unexpected mental health crisis. For me, that crisis was a full-blown nervous breakdown 8 years ago. This is my first video in a 5-part series where I'll dive deeply into the often unspoken mental challenges of perimenopause, potentially leading to a nervous breakdown. I'm gonna cover such topics like the challenge of finding the right doctor and therapist, dealing with the cultural stigma of taking medication, and discovering additional healing methods, like in my case, the first one for me was art. So today we'll talk about the experiences that led up to my nervous breakdown and the crucial signs I missed, and most importantly, why recognizing that you're in crisis is the first necessary step towards you wanting to seek help. Let me tell you, a nervous breakdown isn't something that's easy to diagnose or pinpoint. So 8 years ago when I had the breakdown, I was working as a consultant, dealing with analyzing consumer behavior. But for 20 years before that job, I worked in fields that had to do with alternative therapy. You know, like leading meditation workshops. I had been for many years a certified massage therapist. And in the few years before that, I had become a certified hypnotherapist. And for several years, I worked as a life coach. Basically, all of that to say that with all these healing modality tools under my belt, I felt that I was equipped to heal anything that life threw at me on my own. But when I got sick, I couldn't do any of the careers that I had, even for myself, because this nervous breakdown introduced me to a level of mental crisis that my trainings had me believe that I would know how to help someone to deal with. But no, a crisis is a completely different thing than when we're just having regular issues going on in life. I recognize that the extent of my crisis is not what's gonna happen to most people. But because I'm on the other side of it, there are lots of things I can see that I can share with you that will hopefully help you to not have to go down the rabbit hole that I did, and definitely not in such a severe way. The first thing that I think applies to many of us, and it certainly applied to me, was that I had absolutely no idea that perimenopause could bring such severe changes. I'd known about menopause, and I probably was waiting for that, but I had no idea that perimenopause could be even more debilitating on your way to menopause. And so looking back, this lack of knowledge about what perimenopause can do, I believe contributed very greatly to me dismissing a lot of the early warning signs as just stress. I thought everybody has stress. I'm having a very stressful time right now. That's what I thought at the time. And so I didn't think to make a big deal of it. It may actually seem very odd, but the first and most important sign that it would have helped me to pay attention to was that I developed severe insomnia. Prior to that period in my life, I had no trouble sleeping. I would go to bed at night, I would sleep all night, and there would be no issue. So when the insomnia started, I really had no idea that insomnia could be such a signpost of major issues. In fact, actually, I'm going to make a completely separate video about insomnia and why we all take it so lightly and we shouldn't, because even though I've gone through so much healing in this process, to this very day, I'm still challenged by insomnia. So I said I'd talk about the signs that I missed. Well, to be honest, insomnia was the one I should have paid attention to more than anything else, because it's what led to all the other signs that happened at the beginning of the breakdown. However, it wasn't just insomnia. The year before I had the nervous breakdown, I had the craziest year. My father died in January. My stepfather died the same year in August. But during that year, I had traveled so much. It was ridiculous. I can't think of another year in my life that I had traveled so extensively. Come to realize after the fact that a lot of that traveling that I was doing was me running away from grieving. So essentially, one of the signs that I ignored was that I had experienced 2 dramatic deaths within quick succession, and I wasn't taking any time to grieve. Instead, I got extremely busy, which of course put more stress on my nervous system, even though I didn't realize it at the time. So how I see it now is that because I wasn't dealing with the grieving, my body and my nervous system started to show me what was going on by me starting to have insomnia. And that's why I say sometimes insomnia can be a much more intense symptom than most of us realize. So yeah, there was the insomnia, but how did I actually recognize that I was having a mental health crisis? Lord, I started having the most severe panic attacks that there was nothing in my culture and nothing in my understanding that made me know that those were panic attacks. I thought of panic attacks as something else. These resembled epileptic seizures. No joke. I remember going to the emergency room at least 3 times in the middle of the night. They did every test imaginable, and all the results were coming up as nothing. Probably the funniest story from it now is the night in the emergency room when the doctor said to me, "Miss Smith, what you're having is panic attacks. You're having anxiety." Listen, I was so upset. I was like, if they can't tell me what's wrong with me, then they just need to tell me that they don't know. But telling me that I'm having anxiety and it's looking like an epileptic seizure, are you mad? And so she gave me a prescription for that first anti-anxiety medication. I walked out of the hospital. The only thing I didn't do was actually throw the prescription away, because I was like, no, you all don't understand. There's something really wrong with my brain, because I was also having, in addition to these panic attacks that looked like epileptic seizures, I don't know how to explain it. I was having all sort of tingling sensations in my brain. Needless to say, I was exhausted most of the time. And even at that moment, I hadn't brought together the information about perimenopause. So basically, I learned about perimenopause while having a nervous breakdown. I don't want that for you. I do not want that for you at all. I may not be able to cover all the symptoms of perimenopause that you would look for. For that, I would actually direct you to channels from actual medical professionals, because in this I'm sharing my personal story. But to know all the symptoms that you can look for, it's best to go to channels like those, because they have real, medical advice on it. I'm only telling you my personal experience, and I don't at all pretend to be a professional in this field. In fact, a big part of why I'm making this video is to encourage you to get past the, "Oh, I don't like doctors, I'm not gonna go see doctors." Yes, actually in the next video, I'm gonna talk about the challenges in finding the right doctor and therapist, but it is worth it. It is your health. It is your mental health. It is your emotional health. It is your body. So it's worth it to take the time to go through mistakes. And I'll tell you about one I had that was wild. But it's worth it to take time to go through the mistakes until you land at the right set of medical professionals that can help you. Basically, perimenopause is like the flip side of puberty. So all of the hormonal changes that created all of the moods and all the things that we went through in puberty reawaken in our body when we enter perimenopause. So that's why it's a bit difficult to pinpoint exactly what's happening to you. But what I will say is, if you're in the age where it's likely that you have perimenopause, then yes, that's when it's good to go to your doctor and say, "Listen, I'm not sure what's going on with me, but I am feeling all these different things, and let's figure out if it's my hormones and perimenopause that are contributing to all of this anxiety or all of this insomnia, and in many cases, this depression that you seem to be unable to control, which you could have controlled before." This video is not meant to be like a tell-all of what can happen when you have a nervous breakdown. I made this video just in case you're in that stage where perimenopause is sneaking up on you and you don't know because you're not aware of the symptom that you can face. So no, you're kind of not going crazy, but you kinda could be, but what you need to know is it's not your fault. You've entered a stage of life where your hormones are doing what they want to do. Oops, I forgot to mention. So when I got sick and I had to stop working, I think for the first 6 months, if I remember correctly, I had to have someone come in and help me almost every day because I never knew when these severe panic attacks were going to occur. And when they did, oh my Lord, I couldn't function. I couldn't physically function. And so I needed care. I couldn't cook. I had to stop driving. Don't get too scared. Here I am. I've made it 8 years later, you know? So healing is very possible. But the point of this video more than anything is to say, if you feel like you're in crisis and you're not sure, go to a doctor. This is not the time to hate doctors. This is the time to let medical professionals be of service to you. And I say that knowing the issues that come with doctors. But what else you gonna do? Because I'm telling you, if you actually are heading towards a nervous breakdown, meditation is not gonna do it. Changing your diet is not gonna do it. Yeah, I know people are gonna be cussing me off, but it's true. When something is called a crisis, that is different than something that is a problem. You know, if this video sparked for you to understand anything, I would love, if you feel like being open about it, I know this is a very personal kind of topic, but if you want to share anything or ask me anything, please do so in the comments below. The other thing is, maybe this doesn't apply so much to you, but if you know someone who you think could benefit from this information, because maybe you've been trying to tell them and they're not quite hearing you, then please share this video with them. We want to help each other. If you haven't yet subscribed, but you're interested in this series, then please click the subscribe button and turn on your notification bells so that you'll see when I upload the rest of the series. In the next video, I'll talk about some of the struggles of seeking help and breaking through denial. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.